So this is the spruce, no less, bridge plate. You can see it's already broken out. When I pull the bridge pins out, the ball end of the string would pull right through. The holes were not tapered, they were drilled oversize. So I did talk to the customer about this. I'm going to put a thin rosewood strip across there, otherwise you'd never be able to string the guitar up. You know, right away you can see that it's not actually abalone, it's plastic. And it's way too wide, and on the side way too high to be the real thing. And you know, it goes all the way around. They've got that six-sided inlay, hexagon inlay. This is basically Dan's number 2 guitar. And he just wanted a second guitar that he could use in case he broke a string. This one, I think he bought it for like $350. And the size and depth of that heel also is a giveaway. The grain on this finger brace is definitely a dead giveaway too. It's the total opposite of quarter sawn. What I'm bringing you in to show you is, see that small dowel just behind the outside bridge pinhole? There's one on that side, and you can see there's another one on the other side. During the bridge gluing process, when the guitar was manufactured, these were 2 indexing dowels, like a hardwood maple probably. I had to flush cut those, so I'm showing you that because I want to show you the little tool I made up to do this job. So I fabricated this tool out of one of my flush cut saws that we talked about that last video. I sort of cut it short and then used that 1032 rod with a union to be able to reach inside and cut those indexing rods, which were protruding beyond the surface of the plate. I had to flush cut them so that I could put the new rosewood plate in. Wasn't counting on that. Now this is a little bit thicker and a little bit bigger than I would normally put in, but because the bridge plate that is in there is spruce, you could see how chewed up it was already. It's a brand new guitar. I just want to explain what I needed to do to be able to reinforce this guitar, because it's not just that the bridge plate was spruce instead of a hardwood, but a couple of the main braces were slab sawn instead of quarter sawn. So it's not a very strong top. This will help to beef it up a little bit, and it'll prevent the ball ends from pulling through the soft spruce bridge plate. So I'm going to go ahead and glue that into place. Because the bridge pin holes were drilled out on a pretty extreme angle, I used that gasket, it's kind of a mid-density foam gasket, and that caul so we would get even pressure on that new rosewood bridge plate. Now the bridge plate and all the fretwork is done. We can get on with the rest of the job, the installation of that Fishman system, the compensated saddle, and the compensated nut. I am installing the Fishman Infinity system. This is a good lesson, because everybody figures, oh yeah, you just take it out of the box and zip it into place, lickety-split, clickety-click, done in no time. Well, not the case here. So I have a piece of quarter sawn spruce from a guitar soundboard, and I have shaped it. I'll bring you in a little closer and kind of let you see what we've got. I've just glued that into place. So I'll take those spring clips off, kind of explain what I'm doing, how I'm doing it, why I'm doing it, the way I'm doing it. So this is the little spruce hatch that I had to put into place in order to increase that footprint to be able to use this peel and stick mounting bracket for this Fishman. Otherwise the thing could never hold. So by putting that extra layer of spruce in there, we now have a footprint large enough to install the control panel. So these directions are specifically for you, Scott. I know you said you wanted to really get a close look the next time I did the cantilevered compensated acoustic guitar bridge saddle, which we're about to do. I already did my reconnaissance on this yesterday before I packed this instrument up. I intonated the low E and the A. Now we're talking about this 7th fret and its corresponding 19th fret octave. Both those notes are in tune. E, A, as you can see, the high E is perfect. The B was actually 5 cents flat, but there's lots of room to move that one forward. And the problem, as it always is the D is 4 cents flat, the G is 4 cents flat, and they are right at the very leading edge. So we need to cantilever past the point of the original bridge slot to get those middle two strings to tune. So we're going to start with a new blank. Okay, we got our original saddle. So our first move is to cut the blank down. Rounding off that inside edge. Okay, back to the guitar. So I'm bringing you over for this view because I wanted you to see how far that saddle is tilted back. A Martin saddle is not tilted back like that. I'm not saying it's a bad idea, I'm just saying it's something you need to be aware of. So looking at this leading edge, obviously the whole thing needs to come down quite a bit. You want this to be very close to the rosewood, but you don't want to get it hung up on the rosewood. So the next two steps I'm going to make is I'm going to match the underside of that saddle overhang to the curvature of the bridge, and I'm going to bring the whole height of the saddle down. Now I did notice with the neck set on this one, even on the original saddle, that it was higher on the treble side than it was on the bass side. So I'm kind of keeping that in mind too as I go to this next step. And you'll see that this is the nice press fit. And just to illustrate, here's the original saddle, which is, this is not good. If you got to pick up under there, you're going to get into trouble with that. Alright, so next two steps. So I took the radius off the actual rosewood bridge. So with a very sharp pencil, I am tracing that radius, that concave radius. And just for good measure, I always flip that to rule out any human error. We have that initial very slightly concave radius, and with that gauge I created convex radius, and I traced that radius onto the underside of the compensated saddle blank. Now we go over to the sander, and I will use this gauge to make sure that we end up with the proper radius. So right at the very beginning, when we started down this road, I had the strings on the guitar, and the B string was flat. The two middle strings, as always, were quite a bit flat. The high E, the A, and the low E were all perfectly in tune. So I've transferred those approximations, and we end up with this kind of elliptical curve. Now I'm exaggerating a bit, leaving a little bit more than we need, and now we're going to go back to the radius disc sander. So this is right off the radius disc sander, no adjustment whatsoever. So we're 8 cents sharp on the low E, and I can see that it is quite high, so just the act of lowering the string is going to reduce that sharpness quite a bit. The A, same sort of picture. I think it's more a matter of bringing it down than bringing it back, but you can see now that we've rounded off the back of that saddle, as I adjust that front edge to move it back, well, the string automatically drops. So we'll see on the next time around how close we get. I have marked all the way across sort of a basic idea where I figure we should end up. The D is 7 cents sharp, same thing. These three bass strings can come down quite a bit. Not quite the same with the top strings, believe it or not. Like I mentioned earlier, on this guitar the neck set is such that it's kind of set this way a little bit. Treble part, or high E, is actually higher than the low E, higher off the face of the guitar. That is just strictly to do with that neck set. The B string, as you can see, is 14 cents sharp. Now it needs to come way back, and as I bring it back to this point, it's going to drop down quite a bit and get rid of most of that 14 cents. I'm going to do the next step. I'm going to come back and show you where we are next time through. And lastly, the high E is 5 cents sharp, and I don't really want to drop it too much. I'm just going to bring it back a little bit, and then I'll be back for round 2, and you can have a look and see what kind of difference it makes. Okay, here's the road map we're using. Okay, I've got my original saddle here again, and the only one I know is going to need to come back further is this B. You know, and that's typical. You can see even in the mass manufactured saddles, they always bring that B back a little bit. So I'm going to do that right now before we go back to the guitar. If you remember, that was 14 cents sharp, so obviously needed to come back quite a bit. I'm going to just try that and see what that gives us. Okay, here we go, round 2. The two outside E's are perfectly in tune. The A is still 5 cents sharp. Now you can see how steep that ramp is, so as we bring it back, like I said the last time, it drops the string down. Now we were 11 cents sharp that first time through, so we've reduced it by 6 cents, just basically bringing it back. The D was 7 cents, now it's 4. The G was 6, now it's 3. The B was 14, now it's 5. I have marked all of the values where I feel they need to sort of come back. The high E was 5, and it's perfectly in tune now, so I'm not going to touch that one. So we're just going to breeze back these 4 strings. We're going to take them back, and I got to be careful with that B because it's already dropped down quite a bit. So I'm going to work on those 3 first, and then I'll touch up that B right at the end. Now this is where you really got to pay attention to make sure that that ledge or overhang is not hung up on the rosewood. And at the moment it is, and I can hear that the low E string is a lot louder than the A or the D. See that? You can't even hear the D. So we need to relieve the underside of that overhang just with a couple of file strokes, and then we'll come right back. And this is where the values ended up for that 12 to 53 at concert pitch, cantilevered, compensated bone saddle. I've already checked the values for the compensated nut, and this is where they stand right now. So when I fret the 12th fret note and I tune that fretted note to my tuner and play the open string, the low E string is 4 cents sharp, as you see, 2 cents flat for the A, 5 cents flat for the D, 2 cents flat for the G, 2 cents sharp, 1 cent sharp for the E. So I have used the original nut to sort of get the string spacing right. So now, based on our little intonation map here, the low E string is 4 cents sharp. This straight line that goes straight across represents the end of the fingerboard, or the inside of the original nut. So if it's 4 cents sharp, then we have to lengthen that string, but to bring it back a little bit. The A string was 2 cents flat, so we're bringing it a little bit forward. You can see that faint kind of arched line. So if A string's 2 cents flat. The D, of course, is 5 cents flat, so we're going to bring that right to the edge. The G is 2 cents flat, so we're bringing that back. The B is 2 cents sharp, so it needs to go beyond the confines of that arc. And then the high E was 1 cent, so it's pretty well just a hint beyond the end of the fingerboard. So we'll go over to the disc sander now, and I'll cut that arc. And I'll roll that back edge. So it is the second string. Second string is 2 cents sharp and the low E is 4, so they're the only negative values. Let's go try that on the guitar, see what we got. So as you navigate the learning curve and you go through the motions on this the first few times, you can see I've left that crown really thick on top. And you need to, because you're doing two things here. You're correcting the string spacing as you go, you're lowering the strings, and finally you're compensating them. So as you navigate this thing for the first few times, give yourself plenty of real estate to work with until you've got a few dozen of these things under your belt. Just wanted to give you an overhead view of the string spacing. Still needs a little bit of a touch-up, but I wanted to show you this one more time before I go back to the radius disc sander and skim this down. Well, here we go. Moment of truth at last. Our proverbial tuning check. There's the final take on the compensated nut, and that is our cantilevered compensated saddle. I did loop something on the loop station, but before I play that, I just want to kind of run through some of the sounds of this. I'm just going straight into my lab series. So we've got two dials here. One is like some type of tone scoop. So let me move it bit by bit. Just the other thing they have that's kind of new is this switch inside, which is like a bass boost. I'll bring this scoop right back to the beginning. That switch. Flick it again. Yeah, it's like a bass boost. So this is the Fishman Infinity VT. There's no microphone in this. This is just the pickup under the saddle. Now mind you, I did put a small slip of koa, because it's a bone saddle. The bone can sound kind of brittle against the crystals. So I buffered it just a little bit by putting a little slip of koa veneer. And I'm liking the sound so far. I'll let that loop play. Lots of juice in this thing. Just okay. So this is the guitar acoustically. here's what I came up with. I'll let that loop. Checking this tone switch, we'll just do repeated strumming pattern. I think this customer is going to love this because he's a heavy strummer. Yeah, this is a different animal. I think it's a good choice of system for a high-powered strummer. This is the new Fishman Infinity VT. No microphone. Very accessible. The bass switch is a little bit of a reach, but the other two thumb wheels, easy to get at. Great for a live performer.